That's true.
Finance Committee meeting for January 6, 2025. Councilor Smith.
Here.
Waltney. Here. Allemon. Here. Brandt. Here. Harden. Here. Full house.
Okay.
Good, how are you?
Do we have everybody? No, we don't have John.
Oh, John's here.
Oh, John is here.
John.
Oh, yeah, John is here. We do have everybody. Wow, this is exciting. Okay, can I first get a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes as presented? Motion from Mr. Gwaltney. Second from from Mr. Allemon. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That is 5-0. Those are approved. Okay, we have no new business and we have a few old business items, so and some of those are going to be carried over, so we're going to rock through those really fast, and then we are going to move to an item that is not on our agenda. Okay, so I'm going to start with 14-11-24, request for consideration to amend tax incentive agreement with Piggly Wiggly Construction Project, coming from our mayor, who is not here tonight because he is in Baton Rouge for his mother-in-law's funeral. I don't believe we have anyone here. No, we do not. Alex told me that he has not heard back from those folks today, so I'm just gonna, with no objection, I'm gonna carry this item over, and we will address it when Alex gets back and see if we can get in touch with him about what's going on there. So.
Is that Piggly Wiggly?
Yes.
I've spoken to their representative this afternoon.
Okay.
You can drop that.
Oh, we can drop it? Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to drop.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Allemon, second from Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, that would be dropped. Okay. All right, I cleaned that right up. Okay, and then 01-12-24, request for consideration to modify council mayor salaries for 2025-2029 term, coming to us from Ms. Andrus and Mr. Allemon. Mike, I can't remember, what is the, I think it's February that we have to do that officially?
Yes.
Before the election?
February 25th, the end of the month.
Okay, so Jennifer and I both reached out to several different municipalities about their payment structures for their councils and their mayors. So what I would like to do is have she and I combine our information that and maybe reach out to a few more and put together a list that we can then distribute to everybody so that we can talk about that in our January 27th meetings. Yep, I think we're gonna be doubling up that night. And so then we can discuss it and then make that happen before the end of February to meet the statutory requirements for that. But as for tonight, I'm going to carry that one over so that we can get that information together for everybody and distribute it to y'all so that we can discuss that in our January 27th meeting. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, 13-10-24, request for consideration of creating a Homewood beautification plan, coming to us from the Homewood Beautification Board. Mr. Sims sent us out some the proposals this afternoon. Brian, do you have those? You do not have those.
You want me to forward next emails?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Brian, I'll forward you next emails.
All right. Nick, do you want to just kind of give us a quick overview of how many there are?
Yes. So, when the board was going through this process initially, they had some initial responses from 2 firms, and then we kind of opened things up. We've discussed it here in our committee meetings and through the budgeting process, made some other contacts, and through those other communications, we had one other firm who also submitted their interest and kind of scope for the plan. So we have 3 total, bids or scopes, if you will.
Okay.
This isn't an official bid process, but we basically have 3 firms who've submitted their interest in doing the project.
Okay.
So it's really just a matter of evaluating what's been submitted, determining what's the best fit for the direction the city wants to go, and then subsequently, signing an agreement to proceed with the project with that entity.
Is that up to us, or is that up to beautification board?
It is up to us as a council, through the finance committee.
Yes, they basically, when Mary Michael was here, she essentially said, we'd love for y'all to make that decision. And I think their plan is that they will sort of oversee and share their vision with whoever it is that ultimately gets the job. But I think for the decision-making process, they wanted us to do
Right.
that so that it was through official channels.
I mean, they have, done some work speaking to these entities, but then, since whoever works with the city, whatever firm works on this project will be working with the city, not with the board.
Right.
And also they'll be working
the
with
opposite.
not only stakeholders at the city, like beautification board, environmental commission, etc. They'll also be working with public works, parks, city engineer department, so forth.
That allows for
So,
alignment with city goals and standards. And so I
Yeah,
think that's
well, and
great.
they can't sign, nobody on the beautification board is allowed
Authorized.
to
Well, I
sign
knew
a
that. Yeah, I
contract.
was
We
aware
have to
of
sign the
that.
contract, so.
I just thought they were
ultimately, that's-
overseeing the whole thing and
Nick,
we were just paying for it.
In terms of
Okay.
price points, is there a large discrepancy or did everyone come in about the same?
I mean,
I don't think it's-
everyone came in in the same range, which is the range that we budgeted.
Which is, I can't remember,
It-
remind us.
I believe,
Chuck
I don't.
Kelly was at
It was like
33.
34.
Chuck Kelly was
yeah,
at
Okay, so
33.
30 to
34.
35,000.
I just don't know the exact
Yeah, that's
final
fine.
number.
And the
off
reason
my
that
head
we
right
did
now.
not have to do a formal bid process is because this falls under the amount that
That's already
that
been
triggers a
budgeted.
bid, right.
Okay.
This is
And
less
because
than what
it's-
requires a formal bid process.
It's professional services.
Yes, and it's professional services also. Yeah, so,
That's Lower Von McNair over there.
okay.
That's right. That's the most recent scope that we received from an entity. So the first two were Kelly,
Those are pretty
GMC, and then this is the latest one we received from
Brian,
Florida Ball.
will you go to the first part of his packet? If you don't mind, Nick, I was gonna.
I don't mind, no.
Andy and I met with them back in our first term when we were talking about some beautification at City Hall before we had closed off the driveway of City Hall. And, at the time, we had a lot of feedback from folks that they didn't like the way City Hall was sort of monolithic and facing away from downtown, and I think a lot of that has been addressed. But you'll see, I believe that it's gonna be right there. That is a plan that they came up with. We
Oh,
met
right.
with them, and they came up with, I think COVID happened right after that. I
Yeah,
think
it
is why
did.
we never, that's why we
Yeah.
never, and I know we were also looking into the,
Well, and also, we couldn't do anything at that
That's
point
right.
because of those parking deck below and
Correct.
our
There was
warranty
water
on that.
issues.
it's expired,
Exactly.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So but this is what they came up with at that time, and so Eric mentioned that they included that in this proposal.
Yeah, okay.
And I would add to that too, like all three firms have worked in the city previously. Each of them kind of submitted some proposals I think that they think would be like keystone projects for a plan. The budget obviously doesn't include the execution of any of those projects.
Right.
What they're really looking at is like tying together some like cohesive aspects of beautification in the city, making some recommendations possibly as far as like not only beautification from an aesthetic standpoint, but just ongoing things like maintenance of species of landscaping installed so that it's stormwater friendly as well as like friendly from an ongoing maintenance standpoint, so it's not like high cost or high maintenance type
We're not
landscape.
burdening our
Yes,
landscape
so
department.
trying to tie all that in together. Aesthetically pleasing, has a stormwater functionality, maybe environmentally friendly too when you talk about things like a monarch garden, et cetera. Looking at all those things and being strategic in our opportunities for plantings and as well as key projects.
Okay, obviously right now is not, key time for any kind of planning, since we're in the middle of a deep freeze. What kind of timeline would you wanna see,
Well,
us take here?
I think that the original goal from the board was that this year would be when the beautification plan, such as this, was worked on.
Yeah.
So that then anything that did come out as like a subsequent capital type project or need additional funding, could be that information collected in the next, 9 months, 12 months, would be known going into next year's budget cycle,
Okay.
essentially, so.
Okay. So I feel like we do have a little bit of time to dig into these
Yes.
3 proposals and really decide what we think is the best
I have a quick
path to
question.
take. Yeah,
That's
go
okay.
ahead,
And along with some of these key projects that you mentioned, are there gonna be other efforts to tie into the trails and other things to maximize visibility for those things? Or is that outside of the scope of this project?
So the scope of the project actually includes like talking to, you know, those entities I mentioned, council, environmental commission, you know, residents, and kind of creating the vision of like what input says they want the direction to go, and then that will become the focus, right? So that's kind of the initial part of the plan, is to pull people together and determine like what we see as the key priorities for the city for this type effort.
Yeah.
And then what the beautification board wants out of that going forward is, then they know like what can we pull out of this plan and do as a board, as like 15 engaged residents to execute then, you know?
We have a lot of plans, so I just wanna make sure that we're also building and stacking on top of current, like your safe streets
Yeah.
coordination,
Yeah.
all these things that can build into a more cohesive
Yeah.
vision.
I agree, because like that's why we want it to be like stormwater included as well, right? We have a stormwater management plan. We obviously know, you know, when you make landscape improvements, you may have an opportunity for stormwater as well. So I
Makes sense.
absolutely want it to be layered and strategic.
Okay, so I think probably what I would ask everybody to do, not just the finance committee, but everybody on the council, is, and I believe Nick sent that to everybody, dig into those 3 proposals, really give them a look, and let's talk again about what we think the one that we feel is gonna be the best project for us, and the best group and the best ideas. And so then we can take the next step, which is actually executing a contract with whomever it is that we select. But I don't wanna rush into that, because I want everybody to really look at those, and give them a lot of thought, and then we'll figure out who we think is the best way to go.
Perfect. Thank you all so much.
You are so welcome. All right, so I am going to leave this on the agenda and carry it over so that we can continue to talk about making a choice for that plan. And then, what is not on, we have no new business, except we do have some new business. We, as a council, I think, have all agreed that we want to be proactive in addressing issues that we know that exist in the city. And one of those things is that we want to make sure that we are managing our money and having our money in the most advantageous situations. And in that regard, we have a presentation from Lester tonight, our finance director, Mr. Smith, and he has some representatives here. So we're going to talk to everybody, and this is an item that will likely appear on the other new business agenda for Monday night. And the reason we're doing it like this, just so everybody knows, is because of our meeting schedule in December. Our last council meeting was on December 16th, and we didn't have time to add that to a referral agenda that would make sense for tonight. So we're hearing a presentation. Mr. Smith, I will turn it over to you, and you can make introductions, and go from here.
I'll do that. So, first of all, I understand that this does not follow the normal protocol of being referred to the Finance Committee by the City Council. The reason for that is there is an ongoing project that was kicked off before my arrival. That's the upgrade to the accounting software system, Encode. We're going from Encode 9 to Encode 10. My understanding, in talking with Mr. Sims, he's not here this evening, with IT, is that if we delay that project, that will push us out into the next calendar year, okay? That project is scheduled to kick off January 20th, and this is what's key. It's due to go live May 1, okay? So we have to think about the number of weeks. So with that, we decided, because of the schedule, to come to the Finance Committee, and if I've learned well from JJ, this will go on as, is it new business, JJ?
Other new business.
Other new business, right? So the reason why we're looking at this is that in an effort to strengthen the city's internal control environment, okay? And we've heard a lot about this, I would say, in the last couple of weeks about the city's internal control. The city's finance department is focusing on establishing policies and procedures that will be efficient and effective, right? And they're going to be designed to safeguard city assets, mitigate risk, and reduce cost, okay? So when we look at these internal controls, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to decide how we're going to prioritize them. The way you prioritize them is based on your greatest risk, right? What the finance department is looked at as being the greatest risk, and I think most of you have been in some of those meetings, is the treasury function, right? That's where we had our greatest risk here. So when we look at this, we're actually trying to design internal controls. What are internal controls? Well, these are controls that will either prevent, detect, or correct an action that creates financial risk to the city. Does that make sense? So the first internal controls, I've already said we want to address, is the treasury function. Started looking into this probably about 2 months ago, shortly after I got here. I started addressing this issue as well as I started addressing another great risk, which is payroll. Talk about that later, but just know there'll be some things coming to you all. Hopefully we'll be able to go through normal protocols, but I have a timeline here that I have to adhere to. As a result, we're asking, the purpose of this meeting is to ask the Finance Committee to recommend to City Council the approval of Synovus Bank as a depository, right? Why Synovus Bank? Synovus Bank has what I would call services specifically related to the governmental industry that can assist in us strengthening our internal controls. So some of these that they'll be hitting on tonight, and I've got a list of it. Business process review, right? One of the things that we have to focus on in the city here is we have to understand our business processes, right? We have to understand our workflows, because when we understand the workflows, then we understand those approval levels, and we know whether or not it's gone through a process where we don't have issues with segregation of duties. Segregation of duties is important because if they don't exist, you have override of controls and you run the risk of even collusion. Now, regardless of what we do, regardless of what any other third party does, it's difficult to overcome collusion. So what we have to do is we have to structure internal controls so we've got multiple interjections of reviews amongst multiple people. Does that make sense? So the business process review, the key here is that we will work with Synovus to come in, document our workflows relative to our treasury function, right? Then we'll take those workflows and we'll build them into the accounting system when we update it, okay? The second thing is we'll work with them on fraud mitigation. They have certain services that assist with fraud mitigation. Third thing, payments management. This is the one that I'm really focused on because this will deal with online transfers as well as what's called the Synovus One Card. The Synovus One Card, in some areas you call them ghost cards, in some areas you call them virtual cards. But what that does is that creates a virtual card, right? And then from that virtual card, you're able to eliminate the other hard plastic credit cards that are used. One of the things that we've been, I guess, that we found out was that we didn't have documentation for credit card purchases. And a lot of that's because the approval was on the back end, not the front end. So what we'll do is we'll set up a process very similar to our own AP process. There'll be an approval flow. That approval flow will roll into AP. And if there's a need for a credit card purchase, that credit card purchase will take place in accounts payable, which they'll make sure we've got the appropriate approval, and then they'll be able to capture the documentation. The other item that I think is going to be an extreme benefit to the city through their receivable management is what's called Smart Safe. Right now, what I've learned is we have multiple sites in the cities that collect cash and deposit that cash. One of the things that we've noticed is that not always cash receipts are reconciled on a daily basis. It's done at the end of the month. What this will do is it'll allow us to bring those cash receipts in to City Hall here. we'll be able to make deposits here locally into a safe. From my understanding, and they'll be speaking to these services, is that'll give us also identification, correct me if I'm wrong right now, but we'll be able to know who made the deposit and how much the deposit was. And then what we should be able to do is do daily reconciliation from all those facilities. I think the other benefit to this is it's gonna take off the responsibility of somebody having to go make a bank drop. Does that make sense? So with that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna announce the Synovus team that has been put together: Laura Clark, Jarrett Bass, and Annie Scott. With that, I'll turn it over to Laura. I know that they've got some handouts to present. If y'all have any questions, we can follow up with them at the end of their presentation if that's acceptable to everybody.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks for having us today. We are handing out, this is really kind of our full proposal, which is pretty detailed and probably more than we're gonna talk about tonight, but it'll give you some reference materials. And then, of course, at the end of it all, we're happy to answer questions. But I'm Laura Clark. I sit over here in the Shades Creek building, which is not quite in Homewood, but almost.
You're in the
Just
unincorporated.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was explaining. We're like in a triangle where we're not in any city. So anyway, we're happy to be here tonight. We've been working with Lester trying to craft a proposal that we hope can take into consideration some of the things that y'all are trying to achieve right now, but not just right now, but grow with you going forward, and be in a position to continue to offer the best-in-class services to the city of Homewood. So I'm local. I'm the leader for the Birmingham team, and I have a team of commercial bankers. I've been here 30-plus years. I won't say exactly how many, but I have a team of bankers that work on my team, and we all work in the commercial space. But what you're getting in our delivery model at Synovus is Jarrett Bess works in government banking exclusively. So he has visibility into all of the services and the different types of services that are offered, and really best practices that are offered to government clients throughout our footprint. And we're in 5 states. I would say we're in the SEC, but you know the SEC's gone rogue, and so we're in 5 states. So anyway, so Jared's got visibility there. Annie Scott is a treasury management specialist, so she has expertise in a lot of the products and services that we've got and we're talking about here in the proposal today. So we're coming as a team here. Not any one of us can do anything without the others. We're kind of a group, and we're all part of the relationship that we're looking to establish here with the city of Homewood. So if you don't know about Synovus Bank, I'll give you just kind of high level, but we're about a $60 billion asset bank, which makes us kind of middle of the road. We're not too big, we're not too small. Our CEO likes to call us Goldilocks, but you know, I won't say too much about that. We're in 5 states. And really our focus is on relationships. I mean, we're probably not a good fit for somebody who just wants to do a one-off transaction and see you later. We're really interested in bringing expertise from our team, and that's expensive because you've got 3 people here and not 1 person here, which is great because it gives you access to a lot of resources, but it's also expensive. So we're in it for the long haul. We're not in it for just a one and done scenario. So I'm the local person. I'm going to turn it over to Jared and let him give you a little bit of his background and what he does on the government side.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jarrett Bass. Thank you all for allowing us to speak tonight. I am the Government Solutions Relationship Manager for Synovus, and that's just a long-winded way of saying that I'm involved in all of our government relationships throughout the entire state. So the way that we do business is we always have a local person and a government expert. That's the way we do all of our government business. Because government's like a nuanced thing, you know, you got collateralized deposits, you have ECRs, you guys have councils, and there's just a lot going on that is not in the community banking type space. So all of our government clients always get 2 RMs, relationship managers, for the price of 1. I've been with the bank for about 8 years now. I've spent my entire career in banking. I have a heavy finance background. I have a master's degree in finance. But I love working in the government space. I feel like the government space doesn't get kind of the same love that a lot of the traditional business gets, but they certainly do at Synovus Bank. We have an entire line of business that's built out. Everything that a bank does, we have all of those things: credit cards, trust, investments, what have you. We have all of those things. I have those people on my team that do nothing but those items for governments. So I love working in this specialized group. Annie, I'll turn it over to you for an
Sure.
introduction.
And I'm Annie Scott. I'm in treasury management. As we've mentioned, I've been at the bank for 17 years and mostly handling treasury management. I'm going to highlight or delve into some of the items highlighted, and I would love it if you would feel free to interrupt and ask questions, or if I can see you kind of glazing, I'll know to move on. Lester talked about a business process review, and this is something that it's an honor for us to handle with our clients, because what we get to do is go on site, sit down with the teams, the various organizations within, and really understand and document how is AR handled, how's payables, how's reconcilement. A lot of times we're able to identify, here's an area that could use some more controls. We just the other week were with the city, and AP sent the checks off to be signed, and they came back in about 5 minutes, and we noted there's no way that they've checked all the backup that goes with that, right? They stamped it and we're gone. So that's something we are going to recommend that they take a look at. So we check into the dual control. We recommend the safeguards that come. We're also looking for, hey, is this process really paper intensive? Do too many people touch it, or is it necessary to print it 17 times? Could we skip that part? So a lot of times we're looking for efficiencies. We are able to just see things that not necessarily leadership is able to see. And then what helps with that is we have, at that point, marked out the workflow. We've come back with a presentation for leadership. And then if we do make any recommendations for changes, we're able to say, well, she went here, here, and here to do it, and here's how she's going to implement that service. Because we already know how she does it. It is not just saying, figure it out. So we love it, and it's a chance to really get to know our clients better. And means a lot to us when we get to go in and do that.
And I think y'all told us in a previous meeting that is something that y'all do that is just sort of a value add.
Correct.
That's right.
It is.
Service.
No charge. Yeah,
Right.
It's just included.
That's right.
Let me
But
add
it helps
something to
us.
that.
I mean,
What that process will do is allow us to flow chart it,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that we should have on about any process here. We should have it flow charted. Once you see it laid out, then that's where you can go in and try to identify, are there segregation of duty issues here? Or is the potential there for management override?
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, and it really helps us identify what are the key things that you need too. I mean, because the last thing we want to do is come in here and suggest something to you that you don't need. I mean, we feel like our role is to look across the breadth of products and services that we offer and identify what's pertinent to your situation, what's cost effective, what's going to improve efficiency and deliver results that you all want in a controlled environment where you're mitigating risk and you've got dual controls in place. So that process review can really help us too. We've got a proposal in here of what we've kind of outlined we think, but this is going to help validate some of what we think.
Right. And that's in Appendix D. If you're looking for it toward the back, there's more information
Yep.
about a business process review. Did you have?
No,
Okay,
go
perfect.
on, keep on.
So, I'll flip back there, but I mean, so contractually, it's X amount of years, cost, I mean.
As far as contract, so for the contract.
I know a lot of it's value added, but you aren't doing this for your good looks. You are doing it for fellas. But what's the call? I mean, this is new to us.
Yeah, I can walk
so-
through the pro forma if you like.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
where is that again?
we've got a pro forma, it is Appendix A. But I will say that we're not looking to thank you.
Yeah.
Page 1, but Appendix A.
Yeah.
So it'll be at the end of kind of the fluff. This is not a contract situation that we're talking about here. Of course, we could enter into a contract which would, stipulate that we lock all these terms down for however long, 5 years, 7 years. But that's not what we've put together for you. This is not for any specified time period. But I can walk through the little bit of the pricing. So, yes, go ahead. Lester.
Please, let's do
Yep.
that. And when we talk about pricing is, let's say, I've seen it in my career where you'll look at a bank, you'll say, well, you're not charging me anything, right? I pay no fees, right? And then you'll look at another bank, you'll say, well, wait a minute, I'm having to pay fees for you, right? I want you
Yeah,
to,
I got it.
if you can speak to how that works within the industry, because this is something I had to learn back in my career. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'll start at the beginning. The way that you all are set up with Bryant Bank right now is that you seemingly have no fees, right? You have no fees and you're getting paid approximately 3% on your deposits. So the way that we do things, which is more common for a more sophisticated bank, I would say, is that we have what's called an earnings credit rate, and that's the rate that we're going to credit you for your deposits. It's how much we're saying that your deposits are going to help cover your fees. Your fees, they do exist, but you'll never see the fee. It'll never be hard charged. You'll never see a line item that says a fee on any of your statements. So your earnings credit that we plugged into this, which is kind of the going market rate, it's 40 basis points, so that's 0.4. So that's what we're saying your deposits are going to help cover that fee. So once you plug that in, the fees are gone. Everything beyond that is what we call excess interest. So with us, you're not moving money around to investments or anything like that. You've got, and one of the things that we did as well is we've trimmed down your number of accounts. You had about 30, we're talking about moving you down to 10. That'll help with your transparency, your accounting, just general cleanup. But you'll have about 10 accounts now, and all of those are gonna be earning interest, and they're gonna be earning 3.75%. And so that's gonna yield you approximately $132,000 a month, and that's after fees.
A year.
That's, no, that's a month.
Is that a month?
That's a month,
Okay.
yeah. That's $132,000 a month.
And I think,
Or I might be wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
and I know that, the number of accounts has been an issue.
Yeah.
So trimming that number is a good thing, but the reason we have to maintain the 10 that he's talking about is because we have some funds that have to be segregated
That's
because
right.
they are used for specific things and they have to be in a specific place. They can't be commingled with other funds. So that's why there's still some, but not
Yeah.
as many.
It's significantly less, and you know, like one of the benefits of us, or this team, is that we see accounts all over the state, right? And so we see everybody had, 5-10 years ago, everybody had 30 accounts. They had an account for every fund that they had. But as time's progressed, accounting softwares have gotten better, banks have gotten more sophisticated. You have the essential accounts. You don't need anything that's not necessary. So you have your 10 necessary accounts. It's at 3.75%. It's indexed to Fed
Yeah,
funds.
that's what I want you to say.
So it's
Yeah.
at Fed funds minus 75 basis points. Fed funds is 450 right now, so minus 75, you're at 375. So we like to do that because that's always a fair rate for you and us, right? So if the market goes up, goes down, whatever it does, you're always being paid the fair rate, and it's effective immediately. So you don't have to worry about, we usually do quarterly or semi-annual reviews of the relationship where we come in, we talk about what's going well, do whatever we need to talk about. But you're not waiting for that review for your interest to be moved up. A lot of people, when rates were shooting up over the last couple of years, a lot of people, not saying Synovus or anything like that, but a lot of people were left in the dust because interest rates moved up, but they hadn't talked to their bank in a year, so they didn't get to benefit from that. At Synovus, you'll be indexed, you'll always be getting the fair market rate.
And you
So
did
this-
say, so y'all will come quarterly? Is
we-
that the plan?
That's up to you.
Yeah.
We pretty much will come as often as you want, and
Okay.
there's no fees or.
Right,
that's
just to
just however
update.
often you
And
like.
that's part of what we want to do as part
Yeah.
of the relationship piece. I mean, it's going to take a little time for, to really meld that to where you really want it to be and to where we want it to be. So it might be more frequent at
More
first,
frequent
and
at first,
then,
Just
well,
on
Annie's
ask.
going to live here for a while she's doing the business process review, but.
Yeah, she's gonna move in.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that? So as it relates to relationship, your financial institution shouldn't have a relationship with only your finance director. That's where you run into issues, right? If you have a relationship with other people, the mayor, the finance chair, the council president, whomever, then what that means is if you see something that's unusual, even if you're getting an answer from your finance team that still seems unusual, they have somebody to pick up the phone and call to ask. Does that make sense? So I like the concept of them coming out, especially regularly, early on, to try to build those relationships with you all.
And part of the business process review will build the relationships with the folks actually doing the work too, and that's important. So they have clear lines of communication as well.
And just, yep, go ahead.
Can we get a sense of the other cities that you work with?
Oh, yeah, we work with the largest to the smallest. We work with the state of Alabama. So we're on their accounts payable side, but we work with the city of Madison, Alabama. We work with, thinking down the road, the School of Fine Arts, the Alabama School of Fine Arts. We are Jefferson County Treasurer. Basin Rocket Center, the city of Tuscaloosa, the city of Dothan. I mean, this is like our sweet spot. I mean, this is really where we excel as a bank, I think. So I could get you references, but I could get you as many as you want. A long list,
Yeah.
The one last thing I did want to add about the pricing is that, so $132,000 a month, that's more than you're getting right now with Bryant Bank with a whole lot more services. So.
Let me ask a question. Regions came in here and pitched us, and we moved $12 million over to them. I think that's the number, about a year ago. Gave us a nice rate. Where is that? Do y'all remember that?
They didn't have anything from Regions.
No, I think there was something from Regions.
Yeah, we do.
This has been built into Regions. The Regions
Yeah, we
numbers are
can-
baked
we
into
can-
this.
Okay.
But I will say that, a year ago, that was before any Fed rate cuts. So rates were
hard to-
550.
Yeah.
They were 550 just a year ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot has changed from a year to now, so.
All right, I know you had some more
Sure,
of the
yes.
nuts and
I'm
bolts.
happy for the back and forth.
Yeah.
In terms of fraud controls, we can absolutely support, internal controls. Some things that immediately perk up are the dual control of, transfer of funds. We can require that internally. Externally, that's a standard. Even if you didn't want it, we would say, sorry, you've got to have the dual control. We see a lot of external fraud with that. Also, reconciliation. With y'all have a great accounting software. We can feed data into it daily and keep you up to date. And lots of people can look into that and see what's going through. So those are some areas we can help with internal fraud controls. Any thoughts or questions along that front? Okay. Accounts payables, we talked about the ghost card, the virtual card. We love that for the fact that you are getting a proactive approval on those funds. Deeper into that, we also have a way to handle the rest of your payables as well that would still follow that path and help you with some external fraud controls as well. We see a lot of fraud externally surrounding checks and ACH and wires. So we have some things that we'll see how that would work if we get in to do a business process review and to share how that would work. But the card program, I think, could really support what y'all are looking to do, kind of cut out all those plastics. And our card management program can support you in that. And also it can talk with Tyler to help with some reconciliation there.
And I know, because I asked this question
Yeah.
the other day, there are some spaces where I do feel like actual cards might be necessary, because we do have some employees who do things like emergency repairs on weekends. And they aren't gonna be able to go through the pre-approval process if somebody's air conditioning breaks down
Right.
and they have to immediately
And you don't
make
feel
that
right
repair.
asking them to put it on their
Exactly.
card
We
from
can't
an equity
ask somebody to say, hey,
standpoint.
go out and spend $20,000 on, parts to repair an air conditioning system. But would y'all be able to, throughout that business process review, help us come up with a plan to manage that?
Mhm.
And obviously our goal, and because we already did a credit card, a new policy and made some changes with that program anyway. So getting that number down to even fewer cards is yay for me, but
Right.
I think there are some circumstances for some of our departments that might need those actual cards for
Right.
certain circumstances. But throughout that business process review, could we come up with plans for how to best manage that so that there's not, misspending or too much spending, or ways that we can kind of manage that a little bit
It's within
better.
an umbrella, so that you've kind of put an umbrella and
Right.
mitigated your
Right.
risk to
Right,
some degree.
yes.
I think
Yeah.
that can happen a lot. I mean, Berkeley's got guys that have to go to Lowe's to go
Well,
pick
sure, that's what
something
I'm
up.
saying, that, yeah, I mean,
I mean,
there's people, but
all
I
the
think
time.
we can work with y'all to come up with ways to make that process better, to keep it more closely managed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Even spend controls. We talked a little bit about merchant category code controls, and there are pros and cons with that, and we could certainly lean on that as much as possible. Credit card policies are really going to help you guys against the Visa liability clause, so absolutely. And we have card experts within the bank too that we would pull in for all of this.
Yeah.
That their job is to help you mitigate that risk. So
Okay.
we would include them for sure.
Okay, great.
And really, I mean, Annie is kind of the quarterback of the treasury stuff, but we do, I mean, like, credit cards is pretty specific. I mean, there are additional kind of product experts that we would pull in
Yeah,
as
he'd be part of
needed.
it. Yeah.
Maybe on the investment side, if you got to the point where you wanted to pursue some specialized investments or something like that, we might have other resources there as well.
And then in terms of accounts receivable, specifically the Smart Safe, I felt like I heard an amen when somebody was talking about that. I don't, does someone use that with your own business or anything? Maybe I imagined that. Nerdy banker. But that is, I wish everybody did it because it is a safe about this large. We work with Loomis mostly, but they'll install it, they'll bolt it to the floor, they'll make sure cameras are looking at it. And if you're gonna deposit funds into it, you're gonna have a special code so you know that it was Annie who put the money in. You're gonna feed it, it's gonna check against fraudulent bills as well. You'll know down to the denomination, what was put in and when. Once it's in, you can't get it back out. So it's insured against fire, theft, water. But then the next day, you get credit. So Loomis tells the bank what is in there, and then you're going to get credit for it the next day. So it's not going to slow down your receivables days. And so that is how that works. Great reporting. I see someone's already found the Loomis information right there. Thank you. That you stole. That was Appendix B. So there's more information on that, but it's great technology. And then also, you know, people have found that they all of a sudden are collecting more cash than they used to because sticky fingers aren't able to take a little off the top.
Well, and then I do think, and I said this, and it was kind of a wonderful life reference. I mean, it actually, to me, if I'm the employee that has to go make that bank drop, what incredible pressure and stress that is, and risk there, because who knows if somebody knows you're about to make a big deposit and they come get you. I mean, there's a lot of risk.
Very legitimate.
Yeah.
Thing that you would then be taking that liability off of
away
the
from
city.
that employee. Yes.
And that employee, and so there's a lot of benefits surrounding that.
So that safe in a sense is a depository.
It's a depository.
of sorts to the
Deposit
bank.
in
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
So when the money goes in of sorts, Synovus gives us credit, I'll call it, for that.
That's right.
That it's in there.
And then Loomis will come pick it up on a schedule, and at that time, you know, if the department needs a change order, they can order that through Loomis, and they'll bring the change when they come. So you really can avoid trips to the bank.
Which is, like, sounds crazy that we don't want you to come, but.
I know, we'd love for you to
We'd love
come,
to
but
see you.
we also want to make it where you don't have to.
Yeah.
All right. That's all fantastic.
Listen, what kind of, does this need to be a part and parcel with your timeframe, accounting software, basically?
Yes, sir, because the issue here is we've got to be setting up workflows in the accounting system, and the only way to set those up is we have them. I've got a document I'll hand out to everybody. This will hopefully give you all some comfort relative to due diligence. And I'll kind of explain this if y'all don't have any more questions for the team up there.
Thank you so much.
I was gonna say, and I mean, we did put a lot of detail in here, so if y'all are reading this at night and you get some idea of something that doesn't make sense, just email us. I mean, our email addresses are in there. I've got cards.
Emails, phone numbers.
Yeah, that I'll pass
Got it all.
around as well, so
Use these for
feel free to communicate with us in some way
Yep.
if there are questions that need to be
Thank you,
answered
guys.
after this.
Yeah, thank you. Jared, kind of to Dr. Alleman's point and follow up, since we'll be looking at this next Monday, any information you can share with references from other cities would be fantastic.
absolutely. I'll get
Share that
those
via
to
email.
everybody.
Yeah, I was about to
Thank
say,
you.
Jared, if you could just
Yeah,
send
thank
those
you.
to Lester, and then he
You
can
got it.
send that out.
That's perfect, thank you.
What I'll do is I'll end up taking that information when we get it back, and I'll build it into this chart that we have here. Let me walk you real quickly through this chart. So all this data, especially the top data there, we're looking at rankings by total assets, right? The ranking that's out there, the name of the financial institution is at the very bottom, okay? The ranking at the top comes from the Federal Reserve statistical release, okay? And what they're doing is they're ranking these institutions based on total assets. So you've got your total assets going across there. The green is where I've highlighted those cells to say, hey, that's the leader within that category. I've kind of broken these categories down between large, mid, and small. Then you give a total deposits, right? The next is local deposits. What I found interesting is when you get by ranking by local deposits, look how the financial institutions flip. Some of those that were originally rated 38, now keep in mind what we're talking about here local is going to be Birmingham, Hoover, the surrounding areas, okay? What you start to see then is, if you look at Synovus, they go from a mid ranking of 38 down to a ranking of 5. So what does that tell you? In my opinion, it looked at their local investment in the community, right? The other thing that we looked at is when we got down to government's division, right? Nowadays, industries are becoming very specialized. So what you need is you need somebody that can service your industry. So there were 3 entities, if you look there, that actually have a government division. Now, what I want you to look at is all the way over to the left, or excuse me, the right. That is our current financial institution. I also have Regents on here. When Jarrett was up here talking, he was talking about accounts at one financial institution. I'm looking at all accounts at all institutions, right? And you cannot treat all accounts as the same. Each one of those accounts, depending on what those funds are invested for, may require a different fiduciary, if that makes sense. And that's where we've got to sit down and we've got to decide, okay, where do these funds go and where do these funds go? Does that make sense? So I don't want you to think, oh, it's just this one financial. No, I'm looking at all of them, and then I'll be coming back to you all relative to my recommendation. Does that make sense? But I think that when you look at this, what I would tell you to do is, yes, total assets are important. But I think what you have to understand is you also have to look at this and say who is invested within the community and what does that team look like, okay? If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them if I may.
And so, this will be in other new business on Monday night, because it's something that we, would like to address.
And will we be addressing it in council that day as other new business, or will this get referred to get back to us?
No, this will be in other new business for an actual
Vote.
vote, yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want
Correct.
clarification.
Yes.
Can you say that this is the most comprehensive information we received on how we deal with financials and in our 4 years here? And so Lester, thank you for providing this. I appreciate that.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
What do you need from me?
Um,
Just designate them as a depository?
I think so, yes, because I don't,
You all
they're
have
like,
a standard form resolution you want signed by?
yeah, because like he said, there's not a contract to be signed, so I think it is just approving them as a depository and, approving that and.
We designate who can authorize or sign?
Yes, so we're also going to need to add the signers. Now, one thing I want everybody around this table to understand is in my current role with the city of Homewood, I am not authorized to do anything as it relates to finances because I don't think that's prudent, okay? So I can't wire money, I can't sign a check, I can't do anything. And that's because I feel like that this role should be able to, okay?
I think that's common practice in cities, isn't it? That the finance
Somebody
director.
just tell me who the signatories need to be.
Okay, we'll get that. We'll probably follow suit, but let's talk about that,
Okay.
see who you want, that you're in agreement with it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that was not an item that we need to vote on, but just
Thank
wanted
you.
everybody to have that information before Monday night. Does anybody have any additional questions? Okay, with that, finance is adjourned.